have to say, game of the tournament. We were waiting for a cliffhanger and finally it came down to the last over, and at the end, all you have to sum it up by saying was that Kane was able to finish it off for New Zealand. What a finish. Unfortunate for South Africa. They had their moments, they had their chances, but it is a victory for New Zealand, and this confirms they now go to the top of the table. Quick reminder of exactly what's happened as we sum it all up on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. In the studio with me, I've got Joy Bhattacharya, Zaheer Khan. I think just the emotions right at the end. We wanted something going to the wire and we got it.
Yes, but we did want South Africa to win because they really played out well and showed that fight which we all were hoping to see, and that's something which was there but not there enough. So New Zealand held the nerves. South Africa created chances, but couldn't really close the game. But I think on the whole, they should be happy with the effort. I think for South Africa's effort, you got to feel for them because at 241 they didn't have the chance which we are looking at. They made a match out of it. They created those early breakthroughs. They created pressure and took the game down to the wire. But I think if New Zealand was to bat 49 overs, we knew that they would have got to the total. For South Africa to win the match, all they needed was just wickets through and through. And that didn't really happen, with few chances which were missed, and few you can say that maybe the pressure got to them.
Well, plenty of talking points certainly, but just in case you're catching up with it, here's a quick reminder of this cracking game. 241 for 6. Yes, we said it's not enough, but in this World Cup, it's those 220, 230, 240 type scores that have provided us great finishes. New Zealand finishing it with 3 deliveries to spare, but that one big 6 at the end of Pehluwayo really sealed it and got 100 for Kane Williamson. What a fantastic effort. But giving him a lot of help at the end. In 2015, it was Grant Elliott who took New Zealand over the line over South Africa. He's a South African. And another Southern African in the form of Colin de Grandhomme from Zimbabwe did it to them again.
I know, they just have to look at themselves and say, we produce all the big cricketers from our part of the world. Look at that innings, and that was really the differentiator. In a match that's this close, where the asking rate has been 5 throughout, 47 balls is a very important innings. And what it allowed Kane Williamson to do is not take chances. So he could hold back, allow Grandhomme to sort of make sure that the required run rate doesn't go beyond control. And then when it finally came to it, by the time Grandhomme finished, Williamson was already settled. So this is one of the most crucial innings that he played, and he played it brilliantly. It is his home ground. He's played a lot of T20 cricket out here, so it's been fantastic. I mean,
he did more than 100 when he actually came in, and that in the whole game we saw, even those who got 50s for South Africa didn't exactly get them in explosive fashion. So the only person with such a strike rate on both sides and gets it at that time chasing.
It was required at that stage, isn't it? Kane Williamson was looking very good. He held that one end, which was very important, and dealing with Imran Tahir, because I felt that he bowled really well for South Africa in that middle phase, created those chances. Another standout bowler was Chris Morris. He gave it all, created those chances and those breakthroughs. But yeah, you have to applaud Grandhomme's effort as well, because he really took the pressure off Kane Williamson at that stage. You could see that they were not very comfortable. They knew that it wasn't going to be easy to get these runs on this track, and those nerves were felt by Kane Williamson and Grandhomme both, where there were some run-out chances, few tentative pushes, which could have resulted in wicket by both Grandhomme and Kane Williamson. A missed opportunity by Quinton de Kock in terms of realizing whether there was an edge or no. So all in all, I think it was one of those days where South Africa gave it all, tried everything, but things didn't really go their way. When on the hindsight, that's what they're going to look at this game like.
Early on, we thought maybe the rub of the green is going their way when the hit wicket happened of Martin Guptill, and then Ross Taylor, of course, unusual dismissal just down the leg side. But then it started happening the opposite way. Someone like David Miller dropping catches. Yeah. Then that one they didn't refer. What were they thinking?
That reference was, I just gets me because it's the 37-38 over. This is the last established player batting out there. You don't really, the next batsman is Santner, who's not really a batsman. So at that situation to not, even if you have a 10% or a 15% chance of getting it, how can you not call that especially when the bowler's so sure? And my point is that if it was seventh over and you say there's a lot of the game left, I can understand. This, you know that if I get this wicket, this could change matters. In fact, that's one thing that I really believe in, that if they aren't, teams should be giving a really good coaching in when to call and when not to call for this thing. Which is a very important decision you take. And today, this decision, they look back and they said, why did we not take it now? And this is going to make a difference. Tomorrow, this will, again, you talk about South Africa always doing it to themselves. That same Duckworth-Lewis is what's the pass score, but you need to one more than the pass score. And today they'll again say that, we had it in our hands. The review was with us.
I'll throw one more at you. Was it a case of crying wolf with Imran Tahir? Because he's known for someone who's like everything he thinks, it's out, please review. And on this occasion, it's like, oh, Tahir again is going for it. So de Kock is thinking twice, Faf is thinking 3 times.
But that's the point. De Kock just needs to go with his instincts. He doesn't need to see what Tahir is doing. If he thinks that he had the slightest chance of having it, because there are only 2 people who could have been involved in it. The way the ball was, it was the wicketkeeper and it was the bowler. They're the only 2 people who had a chance. Nobody else was close enough for them to, be in the conversation. So, at best, Faf could turn around and say, what do you guys think? One guy said yes, one guy said no. They went with the guy that said no.
Also,
now, my point is that
Quinton de Kock looked very convinced.
Yeah.
Like his reaction, there was not even a slightest of doubt in his mind that he may have nicked it or might not have nicked it. So it's something, because he was convinced, and Imran Tahir is known to be over optimistic. So that's how the whole situation played out.
There are keepers who are compulsive appealers, who'll appeal for everything. We know our good friend Parthiv Patel would probably have appealed for that, come what may.
Dinesh Karthik as well.
But that's the thing, that every time they look at it, they'll say, in every World Cup, we somehow had a chance. It was in our hands. See, everything else, you drop a catch, it happens. See, here, it's bad decision making. It happened in 2003 with them. It's happening again with them. And that's what they look at and wonder that, yeah, that's what we don't get right,
And if you have to think of it, the last time a World Cup game was played at Edgbaston, remember it's the first time Edgbaston are hosting a game this year, was 1999, the famous, or if you want to see it from a South African perspective, infamous semi-final.
Run out, oh God, yeah. That horrible mix-up with Klusner and Donald. And
you can still dare not ask Alan Donald about it.
Yeah.
You will say, if you want to carry this conversation forward, you'll have to pay for it.
But really, I mean, if you look at it and, those half chances, they were so close and it's going to your best fielder. But, Zaheer said something very interesting during the fielding this thing. Miller, the balls kept going towards one side of him. They didn't change the field.
Yeah, I think angles also. At times, you have to judge the pace of the wicket, and then according to that, position yourself at a certain angle. I felt that Kane Williamson was constantly looking to play through the mid-on, and the ball was stopping a little. So if you see how both the catches came, Grandom and Kane Williamson, even though Miller couldn't really get the hand to Williamson's catch, but if you look at the angle, maybe Miller could have been a much straighter. Looking at the condition, in this condition, if you're looking to close the face of the bat, if you're looking to play to square leg, there's always a chance that the bat face closes and you get a leading edge, because the ball was gripping for Imran Tahir. Even for slower ones, it was gripping a little. Faf did a lot of things right. I felt that in terms of keeping those slip positions for the longer time, he did okay, having those covers and mid wicket up to save the singles. That really built the pressure. So there were a lot of things they did right. It's just that, when things don't go your way, don't go your way. Who knows if he was there straighter, the catch would have gone the other side. Because you look at the Ngidi's last ball, there was nothing wrong with the delivery. It just went for 4.
Yeah, the one more thing I think I'd just like you to reiterate that Zaheer Khan spotted, and it was the moment Colin de Grandhomme came into bat, he was saying, well, whatever you do to this man, don't bowl in that particular corridor that he likes to whip it through the onside and mid-wicket. They did exactly that. They got hit. The one time they bowled it in his uncomfortable corridor, Zaheer outside off, he got out.
Now, I'm not making strategies from here for sure.
You're not, but you called it.
But yes, I think looking at pace of deliveries. If you have to be just critical of someone today in terms of bowling, then it has to be Peklukhwayo. Apart from that, everyone really had some kind of a plan. Okay, at times as bowlers, you have to stick to your strength, and at times you have to just go for the weaknesses of batsmen. So that's something is an ongoing process which you keep learning from. So you can't be too critical of that if someone is backing their strengths. So it's fine. The bowlers were backing their strengths, but I felt with regard to Peklukhwayo, he looked out of sorts. And then in the game time, the process maybe should have followed of somehow getting him up to speed with the pressure of the game. Maybe some kind of planning would have helped, because if you look at that bowling card, there's only one guy who has gone over 8, and rest of the bowlers
8.3.
have really been spot on with their effort.
And unfortunately for South Africa, he was the one who, as things turned out, had to bowl that last over. And then all it was left to Williamson to hit that big 6. But what about Williamson himself? We'll talk about the partnerships first, and then Williamson, the individual, another big name stepping up at this World Cup. Partnerships were crucial throughout both innings. But in this case, have a look at the ones that really mattered. 60 of 77 laid the platform. Then they lost a couple of wickets in Taylor and Latham. And I think what really started it was the Williamson-Neesham partnership before CDG came in.
Absolutely. Williamson-Neesham set the pace, and they were more tentative at that point in time. Neither of them were taking risks. Once he went out, Grandhome came in. Grandhome started taking risks because they knew that run rate couldn't be allowed to climb over that. 7.5 in games like this, and then you're in a bit of trouble because the ball's not coming on. So they needed to say that it should never cross that 7, and Grandhome did that extremely successfully. Just look at that chase. I mean, they didn't take any risks in the beginning.
4.34, 5.4, they didn't let it dip at all, and they didn't lose except for that 60 for 3, and they repaired it well enough between 26 and 40.
Yeah, I think it's brilliantly played from New Zealand side. I think the South Africans played extremely well as well, because look, this game shouldn't have, we all said that if they bat up to 49, they're going to win it, but they just had 3 balls left, which shows you, and if Peklukhwayo had a particularly below par bowling effort, and if they had maybe, suppose Dumini was in the side, could have bowled a couple of overs, ball was sticking.
And that's why you have to give credit to Faf also today. He was on top of his game as captain, for sure, because he realized that fact. He realized that Peklukhwayo is not coming of good rhythm. He's having a tough day. So he used his main bowlers up front. So that's something which he had to be proactive with the game to create a scenario where they're giving themselves a chance to win. If Peklukhwayo had been good with the ball today, you wouldn't have seen this kind of stack up of overs. You would have seen Peklukhwayo bowling with Imran Tahir in the middle, get his overs off, and then this.
Ngidi and Rabada
Then that last 9 overs of 7.34 wouldn't have happened as run rate, which they achieved. Then because you have your best bowlers bowling at that stage, and who are your best bowlers? Rabada, you save his, instead of 2 overs, you save his 3 overs. But those 6 balls also make a huge difference when the batsman is going hard at someone at that stage. Unfortunately for South Africa, Faf didn't have the luxury, but I think he's been proactive on the field to make sure that somehow the pressure is maintained and the result go in South Africa's way.
Now, one thing's for sure, the wicket wasn't easy, and to get 100 on that just shows the class of the man, and it's a big stage, the biggest stage of all in 50-over cricket, and throughout this tournament the big names have stood up, from Rohit Sharma to Virat Kohli, Shakib Al Hasan, Aaron Finch, David Warner, Joe Root, and now Kane Williamson. The best in the business, they stand up when it matters.
Well, absolutely. I think really great performance by Kane Williamson. But yeah, you're exactly right. All the top guys are stamping their authority on this tournament. What I'm liking it is that the batsmen are, the batsmen we expect. The bowlers are the new crop. I mean, to see the Rabada is an exciting bowler. Jofra Archer bowling. Exciting bowlers, new bowlers are coming in and showing us, what they do. Lockie Ferguson's done very well today. So you're seeing the new, so it's very interesting. The bowling is the new breed of bowlers.
And the batsmen are the established stalwarts.
batsmen. Yeah, so it's fantastic.
The other thing to notice there is the very fact that New Zealand have done well. All three of Williamson's innings have been at a strike rate under 100 because he's played the situation. He can obviously accelerate, but every one of his innings, including today, difficult pitch, 40 of 72, 79 not out of 99, and 106 not out of 138. Twice not out. Remember, they've chased every single time they've played in this tournament.
Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor are going to be the most important factors to deal with when you are playing against New Zealand. And for New Zealand's success, they are going to be a key component of that formula of winning matches. You've seen it against Bangladesh also. The match got close. Ross Taylor stood up that day. Today, Williamson scoring this 100. For New Zealand to go further in this tournament and keep up the same momentum, for them it's very important that these two, which the numbers we were discussing earlier on the show, that they have 1,000 runs in England as partnerships together. That number is very vital. I think they need to live up to that expectation, because today also you saw what happened. As soon as Ross Taylor got out, the pressure was more on Kane Williamson. He was a different player. He was taking more time. He was making sure that one end he's holding up. So that anchor role is always going to be on Kane Williamson, and New Zealand's success is going to be byproduct of how Williamson is shaping up in this tournament.
Of course, we've been trying to keep a close eye on what Faf du Plessis has been saying. One, of course, is he reiterated that it was a 260 type of pitch. They fell short by that, but obviously he's been asked about the review, and he said, well, there was no appeal, so there's no question of my even thinking of going upstairs. So it was probably a muted appeal, a query maybe from Imran Tahir, and nothing at all from Quinton de Kock.
No, look, you can't blame Faf on this at all. I mean, Faf does not come into the picture because, especially in spin, you just cannot hear anything that far away. It had to be between the keeper and this thing. And if Quinton didn't hear, he didn't hear. Then it's really unfortunate. But at that point in time, I just wonder if Imran Tahir said, look, because see, even a bowler knows when he's appealing, and he still has 15 seconds to say, you know what, this is not that kind. I really think I heard something. So obviously he didn't do that,
Now we talk about bogey sides almost. You don't want to use that word, but we briefly alluded to it at the start. This is, of course, a league game, but yet effectively they've knocked South Africa out of the World Cup. They did it in 2011. They did it in 2015. So technically the third time New Zealand have knocked South Africa out of a World Cup. This is not a knockout game, but it was effectively that for South Africa because of the way their tournament's gone. They're on 3. They really cannot get more than 9 in theory, and that we feel mathematically won't be enough.
No, it won't be enough. See, typically when you have 4 teams going in out of 10, then generally it's got to take a really crazy number of results for even 10 to go through. 11 is probably safe. 10 also is not safe. 9 is possibly, there may be a very, very, mathematical possibility, somebody beating other people by 100 and lots of results stacking up. But, it would require, they have better chances buying a lottery ticket and winning the national lottery.
And New Zealand, of all teams, throughout we've maintained, okay, India, England, Australia, and okay, New Zealand are front runners. Now at the moment, forget being front runners for 4th, they're at the moment on top. Big matches ahead of them or not, they're on top.
So who is going to be the 4th?
Exactly.
If they continue to be on the top, who is going to be the 4th? They will be playing New Zealand. But anyway, I think the schedule right now is going to be tough for New Zealand. So they have some tough games coming up. They are playing against West Indies. I think that game is going to be the most important game of this World Cup in coming days for sure, because that is going to decide West Indies' fate. Apart from that, you have Australia and England as well, which New Zealand will be playing. So that is something which we'll have to wait and see how they go on about that. Pakistan, they should feel comfortable at this stage.
Big home crowd in Birmingham. The right Pakistan turns up.
See, but with New Zealand, I've seen in this tournament, they've still not played on a flat track. So that's something which is going to really test their bowling. Because right now things are going for them in terms of three seamers doing well, and then they have Santner who's bowling very well as playing as a support role. But their fifth bowler is coming to a good effect because of the conditions they've got so far and the surfaces they've played on. So that's something which will be interesting to see how they respond to that. I think if they respond to that in a good fashion between Grandom and Nisham, they get those 10 overs out on those kind of surfaces as well, then I think this team will be very, very tough to beat in this World Cup.
One possible answer to that question is that yes, they've played once on a flat surface. It was a practice game against the West Indies and they conceded how much? 400 plus.
No, exactly. That's my point. Is this the batting? Is this the batting that can chase 400? I mean, today Kane Williamson can bat at 75, 80 and win a game for them. Okay. When they're chasing 400, he'll have to bat at 130 even if he's the anchor player.
And you need Nisham and de Grandhomme and Taylor to have a big partnership with him.
So I completely agree. And if the tracks get flatter, the weather gets better. That's the other big thing. If the weather gets better and Henry doesn't get these nice cloudy overcast conditions to swing the ball around, is he going to be the bowler he is now? Because right now guys are playing him out. He's bowling nice test match lengths and guys are leaving the ball.
Having said that, let's not forget Guptill and Munro. They could still be a factor, but all in all,
Guptill could be a factor anytime. Yeah.
Yes, a double centurion. Let's not leave him out of it. But for the moment, when you've all made your effort to take your My 11 Circle teams, did you choose a team that had the My 11 Circle MVP in it, the most valuable player, i.e. the player with the most points? No prizes for guessing. Kane Williamson, 106 not out of 138 balls. Never mind the strike rate. It's all the boundaries, the runs, and naturally stacking up the points. If you had him as captain, you'd probably get even more, which I suspect our Beat the Expert champion had. Who is it today? It is Amit Dev Singh from Maharashtra, 610 points. Ouch, that is huge. We've had 470, 480. We see 500 and we go, wow. Amit Dev Singh, well done. 600 plus points. I don't think Dada was anywhere close to you. So pat yourself on the back.
So he had what, Morris, Grandom?
Oh yeah, you have Morris, Grandom, Razzie van der Dusen.
Yeah.
Kane Williamson, captain.
Ferguson.
I must say I had all of these guys, but I didn't make that many points. But never mind. I must have done something wrong somewhere. I still did all right. Anyway, so we are talking about that victory, which sadly for all South African fans means that they are effectively out of the tournament. New Zealand sitting pretty on top with a tough schedule ahead of them. One last glance at the points table before we go ahead to our next game. South Africa on 3 with just 3 games to play. New Zealand on 5 with tough matches coming up against both England, Australia and the West Indies. 9 points for New Zealand. So what lies ahead? We mentioned Australia, the Trans-Tasman rivals of New Zealand. They are up next, taking on Bangladesh. We'd like to say it's an evenly matched contest, the way Bangladesh has said, but we'll maybe have to give Australia just a slight bit of an edge. 5 times world champions and world champions in waiting, Bangladesh. Certainly, no matter what you say about them, Australians will keep a close eye on that. They will not treat them the way they perhaps would have a few years ago.
I think that's absolutely true. No team will treat Bangladesh the way they did, 4 years or 5 years ago. They're a different side. They're not minnows anymore. Those words are, far away from what they perform now. I think the only thing is that given the fact that these are English conditions and not in Bangladesh, it would have been a much more equal match in subcontinental conditions. Here you still have to give Australia the edge, definitely. But it's a much closer contest than you'd think.
Now, in terms of personnel, Zaheer, we've obviously had the news of Shikhar Dhawan now being finally ruled out. Rishabh Pant comes in. Mitchell Marsh also flew out, but he won't be required at the moment because the news about the side strainer Marcus Stoinis is that he's all right to play. Alex Carey said that at the press conference.
Oh, so he's available for tomorrow's match?
He's available for tomorrow's game.
Okay. So we'll have to wait and see whether he walks back in the playing 11 or they continue with the combination which they've been playing with, and Kane Richardson continues to play in that playing 11. That we'll have to wait and see. Behrendorff is someone who had come in the last match as well. So Trent Bridge will have extra bounce. So that is something which we'll have to see now what kind of approach Australian team will go in with. Their batting is coming so good. Finch, Warner both are amongst the runs. So that's something which they would want to continue with. But I think Trent Bridge might have that extra bounce which will make it easier for Australia to continue the dominance in this tournament. So they have the bowling attack to exploit the conditions. We've seen how West Indies used it against Pakistan, which worked in a very positive way for them. So we'll have to see how Bangladesh goes on about. They will certainly have the confidence from the last win, and they will fancy their chances to beat Australia as well if they put the runs on board. But with them, it's always going to be a question of them putting runs on board and wicket being on a slightly slower side. That's something which they will.
We'll come to Bangladesh in a moment. Just staying with Australia. So just the consensus here, if you're talking about Sean Marsh being the possible one making way, gives you the extra option with the ball, Marcus Stoinis, and a little bit in the middle.
You have to, because the big problem is that if you look at what Bangladesh is going to do, Bangladesh is going to target Maxwell. Because, you cannot have Maxwell being your only option for 10 overs, which is what they had to do once Stoinis was out. So I think what will definitely happen is, because see, they're going to tell themselves that the only way, exactly as he said, Bangladesh will get themselves into the game is to score 300 or to be able to chase a big one. So if that's the case, I would rather play an extra bowler than an extra batsman. I don't think the Bangladeshi bowling would worry them as much as the Bangladeshi batting or their capacity. Remember, these guys, how have they won? They've chased big totals or they put really big totals on the board and allowed to see. Yeah. So they have to play Stoinis tomorrow. I don't think there's any way they can't. They have to play 6 bowlers tomorrow.
Especially if you've named him and you said he's fit, obviously you get him straight back into the team. What about Bangladesh? We've constantly told you about those possibilities of, Sabir Rahman hasn't really played, Abu Jayed, Rubel Hussain, the constant question we ask. But if you've got a reasonable winning combination, the only change they made last time, and what a change it turned out to be, Liton Das coming in for Mohammad Mithun, and he said he wants to make this World Cup his own. He wants to make it a career-changing tournament for himself.
3 sixes in a row, he's on a roll, absolutely. No, the only change you could have thought of one match before was Rubel coming in for Saifuddin. But the way Saifuddin bowled in the last match, I don't think you can now go back and say that, he's somebody who dropped immediately. I think right now they'll say we have a set combination, this is done well.
9 wickets in the tournament, so he's not going to tinker with that. Yeah, obviously, the only reason you might have brought in Rubel is if you were playing a team where a little extra pace might help. Against Australia, taking pace off, more spin as much as possible.
Their plans are pretty much going to remain the same. I think they're approaching the game in such fashion that around 330, 330, if that's the par score on that track, they're looking to restrict the opponent to the par score on that particular track and fancying their chances and backing their batting to get that. And the kind of form Shakib is in is certainly helping them achieve that consistently. So I think Bangladesh will certainly put up a good show in tomorrow's match, just because they have that belief and confidence now. I'm just liking the way Murtuza also is handling his troops. There is confidence and not overconfidence. So that is important with Bangladesh as well. That they've won the matches, but now they've started to go on with the mindset that okay, we're going to win matches and we're going to win matches consistently, and we're not going to get complacent, because that's something which they're making conscious effort of being vocal about. That yes, we have a good chance of qualifying. They're talking about all those positive things, and they're really believing in them and backing by their actions. So hope that they restrict Australia to a par score. If it goes beyond their reach, I think playing against Australia, if Australia bats first and they get to 360, 370, then it's going to be very difficult for Bangladesh to get that kind of total. But if Australia bat first and Bangladesh restricts them for anywhere between 300, 330, and the wicket, I'm just talking about wicket being supporting of that kind of total, then I think it will be an interesting game to witness, because Bangladesh has the confidence now of getting those runs, because they've dealt with the short bowling very well.
Confidence, resources, all of that, and the swagger to go with it. So Bangladesh against Australia. Remember, one piece of advice when you're picking your teams, I would say put Shakib Al Hasan in, choose 10 more players. You're sure to score a lot of points. First, of course, get to my11circle.com. Download the app, like any of you need to still be reminded of that. Everyone's got the app. Select the match, that's Bangladesh v Australia, And remember, Dada always has the edge when Bangladesh are playing. So he also will have Shakib Al Hasan in your team. See what secrets we're giving away. Ooh, what a choice. All right, we're just left with that one other teaser today. And wow, what a toughie it was from Joy. Take it away.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. It was, I thought, one of the tougher questions that I've set. He has a famous cricketing city as his middle name, held an ODI record that was broken in 2011. His last one-day international was against a team nicknamed the Barramundis. The player is Xavier Melbourne Marshall. Very interesting guy, played for West Indian guy, played for Jamaica, played in the 2000, I think he played an Under-19 World Cup in 2006 and 7 with Sunil Narine and co. And after that, he went on to play for West Indies. Now he plays for the US, and his last match was against Papua New Guinea.
Yeah, a quick one. There was a guy who wrote to us. He said, I didn't get the answer in time, but I thought I'd just poetically say it, that you have a Spanish saint, Australia's second largest city, and a legendary Bajan in one name. How much better can a quiz question be?
Fabulous. That's a great one.
So well done. That was Yogesh Chayal, but you're not the winner, because the winner answered it in some 35 seconds flat, and because it was Joy himself. Oh dear Lord.
He's back.
He's back. It could only be him. And he was probably waiting for that question. It's probably in his question bank itself. Yes, Xavier Melbourne Marshall. That's a tough one. How are your challenge, Joy, now? Get us a question that Rohit cannot answer.
It happened last couple of questions were like.
Yeah, well, he was probably third or fourth in queue. We just have to find one where he tweets to us or replies to us, Rohit, and you have to be honest that I had absolutely no clue. Hashtag Cricbuzz Live. All right, that's all we have time for, Joy. Get ready for your next question. Zaheer, thank you very much for your thoughts as always. And we'll get ready to be back later today to bring you Bangladesh versus Australia. For once, we didn't mind going well beyond midnight because it was a match well worth it. Went down to the last over and King Kane had the last laugh. My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We'll see you soon.